I think it's time that we assume they're all here. Even if they are jacked, we need to assume they're here and keep on earning their business over and over again. It's more important to be in the room than to be good at your job to get the initial deal. Today's topic, I got the client, now what? And I've been saying this a lot. Stop trying to build your dream business with nightmare clients. We talk about this in the book. There's a couple books that I found inspiration for this particular webinar. The first one is Never Lose a Customer Again by Joey Coleman. We actually had Joey come in and do a teaching series for this. So a lot of what we talk about on today's webinar comes from one of the chapters of this book. I definitely highly recommend it. And the second one is my book that came out in January. There's a lot of principles that we discuss on these webinars that are what I've learned over the last 10 years of building this business and how we've coached our clients to do the same thing. And so if you're looking for a couple books to help beyond this webinar, these are two books that I would recommend. All right, just a recap of last month. Gold Group clients. 3 things that land you on my Gold Group, as I define it, is your successful, well-known agent who has used you. Okay, so that's different than someone who uses you the most. And why is that valuable? Well, if you look at the Indianapolis market, there's a guy named Dick Richwine. He was on my first cover. I talk about him a lot. He's a very well-known, if not the most well-known realtor in Indianapolis history. Well, when I was selling closing gifts, Dick got a small order for me, and he sold like 80 million that year, but only got, let's call it 10 gifts out of the 100 homes that he sold. Well, that wouldn't typically be a Gold Group client as most people define it. Most people would be like, well, Gold Group is someone who got 50 closing gifts from me. But I view it a little differently because the ability for me to go into a new office and say, Dick Richwine, the #1 realtor in the city, is using my product is infinitely more valuable than him buying more product from me. I hope that makes sense. And so the proof of top realtors using you when they have other options lands them as #1 on the Gold Group. #2 are agents that send you the most deals. That one's obvious. And then #3 are agents that refer you or champion you the most. That's a funny one because you're like, why wouldn't you use me more? Well, in some cases, maybe they are in referral, maybe they're volunteering more, maybe they just don't do a whole lot of business, but they are a valuable asset. That's what lands you on the Gold Group. Now, if you're on this webinar and you're like, I haven't even defined my clients. I don't have a written down. That's where I would start. Write down every single client that's used you this year, last year, and the year before, and start to group them. And you'll realize that you're probably spending your time in different arenas poorly, which brings me to my Silver Group. Anyone who has used you one time is now in your Silver Group, because the last group is Bronze, and that's prospects, anyone who is a potential client. Now, this is why those two groups are interesting. It is 6 times cheaper to market to your current clients than it is to go out and get new clients. I'll say that again. It is 6 times less expensive to market to your current database than it is to go out and get new clients. That's a stat that has been around for as long as I have been in the business. And it rings true from NAR stats and everything that you can see. It's easier to get your current database to use you more than it is to go out and find the new guy. Now, another stat you should know is that out of 3 realtors that train, 2 of them will not be here this time next year. So if you have a training class of 3 people that are getting their real estate license and go out and sell their first home, 2 out of those 3 will not be here this time next year. And so what that does is that causes a lot of stress in the life of a vendor who's trying to build our business and trying to figure out who's going to even be around, a year from now. Should I take this person out to lunch, or is that a waste of my time? And so the Real Producers is not an elitist product by any means. We're not cutting people out simply because they suck at selling real estate. But I will say, as a vendor, we pay attention to our dollars, and so do you. Why would I spend this much money in front of a group of teachers? They're not selling real estate. Well, in that same vein, the bottom 10% really don't deserve your time or money until they start selling homes, because they're just doing this part-time. In Indianapolis, there's 10,000 realtors, and half of them will sell one or less homes this year. And that number keeps rising, by the way, because of expansion teams and mega teams. You can see it from the brokerage level. There are real estate brands like Berkshire Hathaway who keep acquiring businesses. Howard Hanna, they keep on acquiring businesses. And the one thing that most top producers believe when I have them on the podcast is that we're going to a world where there's going to be some mega players and every little guy is going to be behind and losing. And I think we're starting to see that at the team level too. If I were to get my real estate license tomorrow, the first thing I would do is figure out what team I'm going to be on. Truly. And I think that's a smart thing to do. It's really hard to make it as a solo agent in this world right now, especially with where the market is right now. So defining that is a big deal. Now, here's the last thing I'll say about last webinar, and then we'll jump into the content for today. I like to break down the 5 love languages. And by the way, if you missed the last webinar, we can get that to you. Throw your email address. If you want either the last month's webinar link or a free ebook that talks about all these concepts, throw your email address in this and we'll get Kyle to send that out to you. 5 love languages is what I wrote down at the end of the webinar, last webinar. And I said, if you have a client, write down your top tier clients and start with your gold group, and then write down the 5 love languages and figure out how we can use these to have better relationships with our clients. Because this isn't just for your romantic relationships. What client wouldn't want quality time, words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service? Touch is a little weird one. You got to be careful with that one. But what we did was we talked about how many touches you need to get in your business. But start categorizing your clients and go for silver. So the 3 goals of this webinar. Number 1, we're going to build off of last month's content. 2, we're going to clearly define the phases a client goes through. There's 8 phases a client goes through, and this is based on Joey Coleman's Never Lose Another Customer. And then number 3, we're going to give you an action plan to address each phase as the consumer, as the client, or as the business building this relationship with the clients. And there's that quote that we're going to keep on coming back to, just as a reminder why this is so important. It's 6 times cheaper to market to your current clients than to go out and find new clients. Kyle, just real quick, have we found Juan? Have we gotten him the link yet? No? All right. We'll send it to him uniquely and see if we can get him in here through my link. All right, here we go. If you're taking notes, this next slide is for you. The 8 phases of the customer experience. The 8 phases. Number 1, assess. Number 2, admit. Number 3, affirm. Number 4, activate. So we'll stop there with the first 4. This is pre-purchasing, evaluating, assess. The pre-purchase of purchase evaluation. Customers are sizing you up and forming expectations. What's the important thing to know about the assessment is that you're not the only one being assessed. So we talk about events a lot. Real Producers, we're a business that exists with a monthly magazine and events. That's what we do. And so the 2 places that someone can assess you versus your competition would be in the print ad and the way you show up to events. And we talked a lot about this 2 webinars ago, which is how to show up to events, how to do them poorly. And how you do one thing is not necessarily how you do everything, but it makes you wonder, right? If you're weird and awkward at events, are you going to be weird and awkward when I'm working on a deal with you? How is your competition? The events for Real Producers are mostly social. So are you showing up in a good way? There's this quote by a bodybuilder that I can't remember his name at this moment. It's not Arnold. And he was lifting a 50-pound dumbbell. Well, this is a bodybuilder. And so he could lift a 100-pound dumbbell. Frank is his name. And Frank's lifting this 50-pound dumbbell. And a guy comes over and asks him, he's like, why do you only lift 50-pound dumbbells? I can lift a 50-pound dumbbell, and I'm not a big bodybuilder like you. And Franco Colombo. Franco says, yeah, you don't understand. My 50-pound dumbbell weighs way more than your 50-pound dumbbell. Yeah. And you're like, well, that doesn't make sense. 50 pounds is 50 pounds. But what Franco is talking about is how he lifts differently than everyone else. He slows it down. It's not an ego thing for him. He squeezes at the end. And it's at the end of 10 reps for Franco, it's different than the guy that just gets up and does it as fast as he can with poor form. And if you think about exercising with the form that you use, everyone's been there where if you use poor form, it can actually hurt you versus help you. So you go to the gym with these expectations of looking healthy, getting fit, getting stronger, but because of the way you do the thing, you're actually hurting yourself and making yourself worse. Your body's getting worse. You're getting injured. And it's the same thing with showing up in your business, especially at events. You can go to an event and be weird, obnoxious. We have this saying in our company, don't be the story. Like if there's going to be alcohol, don't be the guy that drinks too much and then there's a story. But if you show up to an event and you don't have a plan and you're awkward, you can actually hurt your business more than help it, because assessment is the number one thing. And as they're assessing you, they're also assessing other people. So how are you showing up? Number 2 is admit the purchase itself. Customers are emotionally high and primed for celebration. This is when they decide to use you the first time. And we're going to dig into these. Now that we've defined, I'm going to first define them for you, and then I'm going to tell you how you can do a better job in each one of those, like I did for assess. Number 3 is affirm. The post-purchase lull where buyer's remorse may surface. You must reinforce their decision. You guys have had buyer's remorse before. Put in the chat. I want to have a little bit of fun on this one. Put in the chat the last thing you had buyer's remorse for. What's the last thing you bought where you had buyer's remorse? Pair of shoes, gas station sushi. Buyer's remorse. What's the last thing you bought where you have buyer's remorse? So here's what I'll say. This quote, this right here says, you must reinforce their decision. Oh, we got some good ones coming in. 10,000 windows. Diane, is that 10,000 windows or $10,000 windows? Because I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't have bought 10,000 windows. A new handbag, Suzanne, dressed off Amazon. A Kia Soul. Oh, shots fired. I heard people are loving their Kias. New internet provider, immediate buyer's remorse. All right. So here's what you need to understand. Can you guys see this? We like to think that when someone buys our experience or our product or a service, we're immediately happy. They use you, and now you're immediately happy. But that's not what happens. They use you, they buy you, they use your service, and they're right here. They're not all the way in happy land. But we like to think they are. So we treat them like they're already here instead of here. But if we treat them like they're here and they have a journey to get through to happy land, it's going to change our interactions with them. It's going to change how we address the 5 love languages. Number 4, activate. Their first real experience with your product or service. What's the first impression? First impressions are crazy. People, I think the number is 6 seconds, if I remember right. Maybe it's 5 seconds. You basically have 5 seconds upon meeting someone for them to form their first opinion of you, your first impression. I was coaching this kid, he's no longer with us anymore, and he was running a franchise for Real Producers. And I was doing the same training I do with him with everyone, and I would do role playing with him, and I'd hear how he's talking, and he's nailing it. But he's not making sales, and I can't figure out why. And the sales start trickling a little bit, but he's not having the results that I think he should from everything that I've taught him, that I've taught everybody else. And it was during it was during COVID, so I hadn't actually met him in person yet. And I met him at our first live conference post-COVID. And when I met him, I shook his hand. He had just come from outside on a smoke break. He was nervous, so his hand was kind of sweaty. It's kind of nasty. His breath stank because everything stank because he just came in from a smoke break. And it was just kind of an icky first meeting, right? And I realized that part of this could be the fact that his first impressions are not good with these people. So he could nail the experience for real producers. This is what you get. The events are killer. You're going to love the way your ad looks. But because someone's already formed the opinion of whether or not they want to see this guy again, work with him again, be a part of whatever this guy is a part of, he's already working an uphill battle before he even presents the service. Does that make sense? I can't see anyone's faces, so I guess it just has to make sense. So that's the first 4. I'm going to pause here because we have Juan from Gold Bar. And Juan, you're welcome to audit the rest of this if you want. But I'm going to bring him on. He is the platinum sponsor at RP Elevate in September. He was on the show for the podcast that just launched a couple Thursdays ago. We have to, you know how when you're listening to podcasts that you sometimes put it on 2x speed? Well, for Juan's episode, you have to put it on half X speed. This dude, I don't know, he wakes up at a full sprint. So Juan, you're going to have to slow down, but welcome to the stage, buddy.
Thank you, my man. And yes, I'm going to try to slow it down for everyone. I'm from New York, so I talk really fast just like this, but we're going to keep it cool for this. But Remington, I appreciate you, brother.
So we're halfway through these stages. We on the last webinar, we talked about defining clients and how to groom relationships with them. On this one, we're talking about how to keep them using your services and then to duplicate them. We're halfway through that. But I had mentioned that you were going to be joining us in the beginning, and I really, this whole RP Elevate thing, just to put a quick commercial. This is kind of like the podcast. It's halfway through the webinar. We're doing a quick commercial. You're excited about RP Elevate. It's very similar to an event that you have done previously, but you're just putting all your resources towards this one and you're excited about. Can you tell me what you're mostly excited about for RP Elevate?
Yeah, so a little background on me, guys. I was formerly a real estate agent team leader. I got my license in 2016, and from 2016 to 2020, I basically built out my team. I had a really good coach who taught me how to go out there and build systems, hire staff, and manage aggressively. And by 2023, my team did about $104 million in sales while I worked exclusively from home. So I understand the entire process of building a business, selling 200 homes a year, manages employees and staff. And really at the backbone of that is systems. And there's a way that you could develop a system for anything. Okay. So I took that entire experience, I rolled it up into going out there and starting a staffing company. And I knew if I wanted to be known, I had to create an incredible event. So I did Gold Bar Live. We sold out New York City in Times Square. We had Ryan Serhant, Josh Shulman, Aaron Kerman. We had close to 1,000 people attend. And then I did it again in Miami this year with Frederick Auckland, Dina Golden-Tire, and some of the biggest CEOs. And then it's interesting. I came across Aaron, who's the local franchisee here in Orlando. And I said to him, like, hey, like, what is this Real Producers thing? And it was the first time I ever heard about your concept and your magazine and the franchise itself. And when he showed me what you guys have built, I basically said to myself, it's like, you guys have done all the hard work of identifying the top producers, the team leaders, the best of the best in every single market throughout the country. And you've put together this incredible culture. Like, I want to be involved in what you guys are doing moving forward. So me and Remington have been talking back and forth. I'm super excited for this conference itself, but I have to be honest, I would love to see how we can get every franchisee involved at a higher level. You guys really built these companies on a local level. And what I found about real estate is that,
just so you know, just so you know who's in the room, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So it's our local franchisees that are on this webinar and our partners. This is a partner webinar. So I want to make sure you understood the context of who you're talking about. Because I specifically, from your standpoint as a partner, the platinum level partner, talking to other clients about attending. And a lot of them, I honestly just want them there because some of the people on this webinar maybe don't have a national brand, but having a ticket to go to RP Elevate and being a part of it and learning. The question I keep on getting is, hey, if the content from stage is all about realtors, is just for realtors, to learn, which isn't necessarily true.
Yeah.
Why would I, as a vendor, as a mortgage lender, as a title rep, as a home inspector, why would I get a ticket to go? And I want your thoughts on that.
I think it's pretty simple. Number one is the referral relationships, right? So I built up maybe 75% of my business through either vendor relationships with other mortgage companies, title companies, whatever it may be, as well as agents that weren't even in my market. So I identified that a lot of people that wanted to buy in Florida were also selling in New York. So I would go out of my way to network with all the New York agents and then go out of my way to collect referrals on that side. But then I would also network with all the Florida agents, and then it would kind of be like a cross thing there. So I think for the partners that are on this call saying, why would I go all the way out to Dallas to meet all these people? We have to think about it. Like, if you have relationships all throughout the country and they know that you are that go-to person, whether it's in Cincinnati, Indy, or Orlando, LA, whatever it may be, and you could build that brand as being the go-to mortgage lender, title company, whatever it may be in that city, then in every single place across the country, it's not just important to have a local brand anymore. You want to have a national brand where people know you as the go-to person. So I think referrals is number one. Number two, it's just hacking strategies. You've interviewed hundreds of the top agents, partners, whatever you want to call it, all throughout the country. And every single one of them have done something different to build their business. I think by attending this conference, I'm excited for the speakers, but I'm also excited to network with every single person there that's going to be the best of the best, and just ask them, like, dude, what did you do to become successful over the last 10 years? And then I just want to write down that strategy, go on to the next thing. So I think from a partner perspective, there's the ability to, like I said, build relationships with all those other people. But more so, if you could just take 2 or 3 things away from the conference that you could apply locally, that's worth it in itself, you know?
Yeah, I believe that too. I mean, I've always said, if I'm going to a conference where there's like-minded people and it's going to improve my business, I know it's going to come back to me 3x or 10x. And so every single time I get in a room with people like that, it's a big win for me. So Juan, we'll see you there. Thanks for being on, and thanks for being a platinum sponsor for RP Elevate.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man. Looking forward to it.
All right, guys. Nice little commercial halfway through. We're getting pretty good at this, Kyle. I really like this system. I'm going to define the next round, the 5 through 8. And then what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to break down 1 through 8 on how we can capitalize on each thing. So Kyle, throw number 5 up for me. We've already said, just to recap, assess, admit, affirm, activate. Now, number 5, acclimate. They're figuring out how this works. This is the learning curve. They're starting to use you. There we go. I'll control that. Onboarding and adoption. You got to guide the customer so they feel comfortable and capable. Number 6, accomplish. Customers are achieving their initial goals, and we got to validate them in their choice. Number 7, adopt. This is when it gets really exciting. They start to deepen their emotional connection with you and feel proud about being associated with you, which is what we were just talking about. And then number 8, advocate. They become your promoters, and the goal is to get them from steps 1 through 8. Now, how do we do that? Well, that's where the meat and potatoes comes. You've finally arrived. We are going to go through each level and talk about tips and tricks to do at each single one. So starting back at assess, they're evaluating you. The customer's mindset, do I trust this company? Do they understand me, and can they deliver what I want? So here's where you need to make sure your marketing and your sales materials are clear, empathetic, and results driven. And Kyle, I would just pick a couple of these things and just throw them up on the screen as like for people taking notes. Clear over clever. This is a big one for me and my personal team in Indianapolis. So I still run the Indianapolis franchise. And our big thing this year is, with our marketing and everything we're doing, are we clear over clever? Is what we are saying abundantly clear as to what the mission is of the marketing? Or are we being super clever with alliteration or, the design? Like we did a webinar a couple months ago on the worst ads ever. And some of them, like if you think about some Super Bowl ads where it's like the funniest commercial that they get up there, but you have no idea what the brand was. And afterwards you're like, oh, that was a Mentos commercial? I had no idea. To me, that's a miss. And you spent a lot of money on a big old miss. And that's something that we should learn from. Clear over clever. Assess. I would even create a comparison chart, if you haven't already done this, a physical comparison chart about what you offer versus the other competitors. A welcome video that explains the process. If you are on this call and you don't have some sort of video messaging option, whether it's BombBomb, CoVideo is one that's based here in India, I refer out a lot. CoVideo.com is cool because you can have skins. If you're not sending video message, either through email or text message, you're probably missing out on a good opportunity to win some more business. So that's in the assess phase. Number 2, admit. This is the decision to buy. This is where the customer is, I'm excited, but nervous. Did I make the right choice? That's what they're thinking. I'm excited, but I'm a little nervous. So what can we do in those times? The first one is celebrate the sale. Send a big thank you card, a handwritten card, a thank you video, small gift even. They've said yes. You celebrate the sale. I've heard it said that enthusiasm is transferring your energy to them, to someone else. Energy sells. And if enthusiasm is transferring your energy to someone else, they are now selling themselves, which works better than me selling. Does that make sense? If I can sell myself on something because of the energy that I have, the enthusiasm that I got from somebody else, it's a lot better than them just having to call me over and over again and remind me why this is awesome. So celebrating that sale. You're going to love working with our team. That's great. We're going to get the onboarding started today. Do you have that program in place? Do you have that attitude? Is everyone who, by the way, I've had this where like I have that enthusiasm, but my onboarding manager who I hired last week because my last guy quit has terrible energy. So then they get on and they're, the opposite of what we had thought. And I haven't audited them. Take the extra time to make sure every single person on your team is matching the energy and the excitement, because the next stage is affirming. And this is where buyer's remorse creeps in. Stage 3, affirmation, affirm. Wait, was this a mistake? Why do we get there? I mean, I get there all the time. I'll tell you, when I bought my first house, I had buyer's remorse. My wife was gone on a trip. I can't remember where. So the first night, I'm sleeping in this empty house with boxes everywhere, not even knives on the counter yet. And I've got my bed and I'm staring at this empty house. And I had like this little mini panic attack because this is my first house. I had like $5,000 left in the bank after this. What did I just do? Buyer's remorse is a real thing. It happens to all of us. And if we know that our clients are going through this, if you could see a meter on someone's face, like kind of like Sims or Sim City, right? And your little clients are walking around the map and 10's awesome and 1's terrible. And you just sold somebody, but they're at a 3. If you could know that, what would you do different? I think it's time that we assume they're all here. Even if they are jacked, we need to assume they're here and keep on earning their business over and over again. This is why I believe MSAs are a terrible business practice. Even they're illegal in most places, but even the ones that aren't illegal, like having an office, having an agreement, competition is a very good thing in business because it means the person who's trying to earn your business is fighting against somebody else and they have to continue bringing value. That's a good thing. That's why you see with real producers, we have different categories that have multiple people in there. We will always do that. We don't do exclusivity and we never will because it's bad business. You guys like my Dunkin' cup? We really need to get sponsored by Dunkin'. I'm giving them such free advertising. So during the affirmation stage, what do? I would share a behind the scenes photo or video of your team prepping their account. I would give them an onboarding checklist of things that are about to happen and nail it every single time you say, hey, you're going to be getting this. I mean, I send a simple little email to my team when we're onboarding that has a little GIF of a minion saying you did it. And then it's a Calendly link to the next phase. And we're constantly following up. And by the way, if they don't click on that Calendly link, they get another ping from my team, because if they don't go through the onboarding process well, you know who suffers? Not just them. We do, because then they don't get the best experience. But sometimes at the end of a client's experience with you, you're like, well, you didn't do what you're supposed to. But if that's the attitude you have, you're the one that's going to lose. It's like the guy that steps on a one-way street and only looks to the left because traffic shouldn't be coming from the right. Well, guess what? That guy who's not following the law isn't the one that's going to lose when he hits you with his car. You are. So why are we so wrapped up into someone else's responsibility when there's things we can control to get our clients in the right place? Number 4 is activate. This is the first real experience with your service or product. So I've said this before. I was like, it's more important to be in the room than to be good at your job to get the initial deal. If you're trying to get the initial deal, it's more important to just be present, but that's just to get them to use you the first time. Once they use you, you got to be good at the thing. You got to nail the experience. You got to nail that first deal. You got to hand deliver whatever it is and continue to do that over and over again. So when you're activating them, hosting a kickoff call or meeting to set goals and timelines for them personally is a huge deal. Give them a personal checklist of what to do so that they feel in control. And then we talked about like one of the love languages being words of affirmation, like mini celebrations, a certificate or a team cheer, a social media welcome post, like letting people feel special because they decided to go with you. And this is all within the first week. This 1 through 4 is all within the first week. The customer experience, this Joey Coleman book, Never Lose Another Customer, it focuses on the first 100 days of a client experience, but half the book is about week 1. It's so easy to drop the ball because we have so many other things going on. And the goal is more clients, right? So if I have 5 of these clients that are onboarding, it's even easier for me to drop the ball on 4 of them if I'm nailing it for 1. Some of you guys are writing down, and what I would encourage you to do is we're getting to the part where we're almost done with this particular topic, but I would take this moment right now to write down maybe your last 3 to 5 clients that you've acquired and mentally go through some of the stuff we're talking about and say, did I nail this experience for my last 3 clients that I brought on? Because it's duplicatable. You can work backwards and realize that, shoot, if I didn't, I can actually go back to them right now. And then starting now for the next 3, we're going to nail this. Number 5 is acclimate, learning the curve. They're figuring out how this works. I'm not really sure how to use this correctly. That's what's going on in their brain. So providing education and guidance, tutorials, walkthroughs, cheat sheets, even if they don't use it, the fact that you have that means you got your crap together. FAQ videos. Hey, we've been doing this a long time. This is what most people think. The fact that it's just there sets you apart from everyone else. So I would build, and again, I would use video for this, a quick start guide video that explains the 3 things they need to know and sending them things along the way. Offer a 30-day how's it going call. Happy client call is what we used to call that. Like 30 days in, they get an automatic call no matter where they're at. Even if I talked to them yesterday. Because again, this is the processes that you put in place that shows them that you know what you're doing. Number 6, accomplish. They've achieved their first goal. I've got results. This works. This creates milestones. This is where you can gamify it. This is where you can gamify. The more you can gamify your business, the more exciting it is for everybody. So if you have graphics and things made that, or a celebratory text that you send the same GIF or meme, I mean, simple things, little things like that. We don't have to send them $100 or $200 gifts every step of this way. It's just acknowledging. It's letting them know, wow, you just got through your first one. Wasn't that awesome? Let's do this again. Systems in place. Have you gamified your business? Have you created recognition? Most of you are in a position where you could use your ad in the magazine as a standings. And I tell you what, the people who take me up on this love it. They love the amount of attention they get. You take your ad and you put your top 5 realtors that use you for the previous month, and number 1 gets their headshot in your ad, provided that they give you permission. They eat it up. They eat it up. Your own standings just for using your company. Give them a gift. The top 5 get a gift card, whatever. They love seeing their name and face in print. We all do, no matter what it's about. Gamify your business. Number 7 and 8 is where it gets fun. Adopt. They're embracing your business. This is part of how things I do now. People, we've had a lot of people on the podcast talking about your team. And even if I'm a solo agent, the people who are on my team are my mortgage lender, my title company, my painter who goes in and paints everything. Who is my team? So they're starting to adopt quite literally you onto their team. You are a part of their team. And you can use this as an opener. Hey, Mr. New Realtor, my name is Remington. I'm in title and I would love to work with you a long time. And I would think if you find that you talk to our other clients, they really see me as a part of their team because I make their transactions go smoothly and they love sending their clients to because of my bedside manner, and I take it off your plate. And so really, and you don't have to pay me anything, and I'm a free teammate that makes you look awesome. And then that's when number 8 happens, which is advocate. They spread the word to others. I love this so much. I love Remington so much. You have to do this. You can start a formal referral program at this point. An actual attainable top 10, get this. You're on my list. Everyone gets this for referring business. Everyone should have a referral gift just for the action. If you have a gift that is only for a referral that goes through, I would say you're not embracing the opportunity to reward the behavior versus the results. If you can find a way to reward behavior so that someone's excited to do it, regardless of whether or not the result happens, because who knows why the result doesn't happen? It could be your team. It could be something, but you don't want to discourage other people. You want to encourage them to continue those actions. So have something built in place to reward the behavior, not the results. I want to finish up this whole concept with telling you guys about the best Uber I ever had. The best Uber drive I ever had. And I wrote a piece about this not too long ago. And I think this is perfectly, this fits perfectly with what we're talking about today. So I've taken a lot of Ubers in my life, and some are fine, some are weird. One guy tried to sell me supplements. Another asked if I wanted to hear his mixtape. I said yes. I regret saying yes. But a few weeks ago, I had the best Uber ride of my life. Not because it was fancy or because it was a fancy car or I got to my destination faster than usual. It was because I met Richard. Now, if you've used the app before, you know that a 5-star rating system can be a little misleading. If someone has a perfect 5.0 score, it usually means they've only driven their friends around or like just got started. But Richard had over 3,000 rides, and it was still a 5.0. I've never seen anything like it. So naturally, I was intrigued, but I was a little skeptical. So then I got a message from him before he even pulled up, and it was personal and friendly and thoughtful. It wasn't one of those generic, I'm outside kind of messages. It set the tone, and when I hopped in, he greeted me by name and cracked a joke about the wind blowing me over. It was a really weird day. It was super windy, and it was simple, and it was smooth. So Richard's originally from Jersey. He's now living in Kansas City. And he said, he made a joke just to set your expectations low. He said it with a smirk, and he was super chill. Now, his social cues were interesting to me. And this is something that I feel like can be taught. I asked him how he managed to keep over a 5.0 rating over thousands of rides without missing a beat. He said, first impressions are everything. This is just what we've been talking about. You've got 3 seconds to not feel like a stranger. He said, we're raised being told not to talk to strangers and not to get in cars with strangers and definitely not to take food from strangers. And now we do all 3 in 5 minutes. He said, I'm a professional stranger. He laughed, but it wasn't a joke. This is true. So he's treating his work like it matters because it does. It's not a get me to the airport on time kind of way. It's a make someone's day better kind of way. And so he tries to offer luxury, not in materials, but in mindset, comfort, safety, kindness. People remember that. So I asked him how he handles rude passengers or people who are just not having it. And he smiled and he says, you read the room. You let them talk about themselves, be quick, polite, and keep moving. That's what I'm talking about with social cues. This man was a case study in emotional intelligence. He kept calling me by my name, which is an easy thing to do. It's something I need to do more because I forget names. And if I would just repeat it, I wouldn't forget the name. And he was doing it like I was a client at a luxury resort. This is not just a dude trying to get me from point A to point B. he took his job really seriously. And toward the end of the ride, I asked him, there was a moment, I asked him, what shaped your mindset? How did you get here? And he got quiet for a minute. And this is what he said. I'm going to read the quote. I buried my mom 1 year into her retirement. She worked hard her entire life and never complained. And when she died, the company kept running like nothing happened. Now that stayed with me. He said it changed everything. He wanted to live with intention, make moments count, even in the backseat of a car, especially there. So when I got out, I thanked him, not just for the ride, but for the reminder that no matter what job you're doing, you've got the power to leave an impact, to make someone feel seen, to offer luxury even when it's in the most ordinary places. So here's to Richard, not because of the car, but because of the care. That's my challenge to you today. You've learned about how to acquire clients and how to keep them. If every interaction you have with someone today, whether they're a potential client, a prospect, or just the guy that checks you out at the grocery store, when they go home to their spouse or their parents or their girlfriend, and your name comes up, is it something that you'd be proud of? Is it exciting? Is it something that you'd be excited that they said about you? Or is it something where it's like, yeah, I really messed that up, or I wasn't even paying attention? Live with intentionality today, not just in your business, but in life. How can you impact someone to where when they go home and talk to their spouse, they're like, wow, that dude was the best part of my day. That girl was the best part of my day. That's all we got for today.